Hostage, a Todd Mills mystery, book 3 in the series. Arthur R.D. Zimmerman, publisher, Scribble Pub. Narrator, Eric Aust. Chapter 25. Todd had no idea what was happening, nor did he have any real idea how he'd ended up in Lyle Cunningham's black pickup truck. All he knew was that he had to get to the WLAK studios in time for the 10 p.m. news, and this was the most expedient way. Whether or not he was in any kind of mental shape to go on the air, however, remained to be determined. "Why the hell did you follow me?" asked Todd as they sped through the night and the flat suburb toward the station. Lyle shrugged his large shoulders. "Because I saw the way the leader of that group looked at you when they kidnapped Clarendon, and I saw the way you looked at him." "So?" replied Todd, wondering if he was getting at the very thing Todd had failed to relay to the police. "So you know him, right?" Now it was Todd's turn to shrug. Glancing out the window at a dilapidated strip mall, he tried to evaluate how much to say, what, and what not to filter, and of course, how fully he could trust Lyle. Finally, Todd decided not to hold back, and he said, "I recognized him, but I don't know why. I've been trying to remember, but I can't." Of course, it didn't help that he had on a mask, his head was shaved, and he looked sick as hell. Who knows? Maybe I've just seen him at the grocery store or down at one of the gay bars? Maybe. Lyle glanced over. Or maybe he's a friend of a friend? "Perhaps," replied Todd, wondering just how much Lyle actually knew. "Yeah, well, when you do remember, let me know. I'm looking for that thread, the one that's going to unravel this whole thing." He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a business card. "The second number is my voice pager." Todd took the card, glanced at it in the faint light of the car. What did Lyle take him for, a total fool? "Right," said Todd. "I'm going to call you the same guy who just had a gun to my head." "I wasn't going to shoot." "Sorry, buddy, but I don't think I'm going to call Mr. Johnny Clarendon's bodyguard with any hot information." Todd motioned to the low white building up ahead on the left. "That's the station right up there." Lyle braked at a stoplight, waited for a green, then turned left and said, "I don't know if it makes any difference to you, but for your information, I can't stand Clarendon. In fact, I probably detest him more than you can imagine." "Oh, I see." Todd shook his head, wondered what in the hell this was all about. "So you're just out here doing double duty? Looking for Clarendon because it's your moral duty or something?" "Actually, that's about right. I was hired to do a job, and I'm going to keep on doing it because I don't know what about you, but I'm morally opposed to things like kidnapping and terrorism." "Oh, the idealistic bodyguard. Sounds like juicy pulp fiction." Lyle shook his head, then glared at Todd. "You know what I don't like about you gay people?" Todd's spine bristled. "What?" "Your inability to see beyond your own fucking nose." "And you know what I don't like about you straight people? Your hypocritical morality." "Listen, you're not the only ones in crisis. In my opinion, gays are the most self-absorbed group of people I've ever seen." Jesus Christ, thought Todd. "Time to be done with this," he said. "You can drop me off at the side door over there." He couldn't believe this. Of course, he should have called a taxi. Of course, he should have avoided Lyle Cunningham's offer to drive him out here, and as the truck turned into the drive of Channel 10 and neared the side entrance, Todd, ready to spring out, reached up to the door handle just as quickly. Lyle's bear-like hand slammed down on his own door lock, and with a thunk, the automatic system locked Todd's door as well. "No," realized Todd, turning and staring at the other man. Getting out of here wasn't going to be easy. "Not so fast, asshole," snapped Lyle as he pulled to a stop by some large, overgrown junipers. "So there's a catch to this free ride?" "I want to tell you a little story." "Do I have a choice?" "No, you don't," replied Lyle. "You don't because I want to tell you about a 60-year-old lady who—" "Listen, pal," Todd interrupted. "I really don't have time for this. I'm supposed to be on the air in a few minutes." "Just shut up." "Oh, Christ." "So this lady, she moved down to Arizona some 10 years ago. Her husband had died, and she moved to Sun City where she met a nice old man, a really sweet guy, very lonely and very loaded. A while back, he'd had quadruple bypass surgery, but had recovered in excellent shape." Todd was about to get terribly pissed off when it hit him. Was this story going where he thought it was? didn't involve who he thought it did? Or so it seemed, continued Lyle, until the old man started losing weight and developed pneumonia, which was when they discovered that the blood transfusion he'd been given years earlier for the heart surgery was tainted with the HIV virus. It was very sad, of course, but the pneumonia was quite virulent, and it killed him quite quickly. When Lyle lapsed into silence, Todd pressed, "What about the girlfriend?" "The girlfriend?" Lyle looked out into the dark. "Unfortunately, it took about 7 more years before AIDS killed the little old lady with whom he'd slept 3 times. Todd saw the intensity in Lyle's eyes. He saw the anger and knew precisely what it meant. "Your mother?" "Exactly. She died 3 years ago, and it wiped us all out. Me and my 2 sisters, both emotionally, of course, and financially." He turned and stared right into Todd's eyes. "So don't you get me started on what I think of people like Johnny Clarendon." Lyle popped open the locks. "Just call me if you know anything." "I will," said Todd, opening the door and climbed out. "And I'm sorry about your mom. I really am." "Yeah, well, it was about as awful as things get." He took a deep breath, exhaled. "Just remember, call me if anything comes up. I'm actually pretty good at these kinds of situations. After all, I used to be a Marine." Now there's some reassuring news. As Lyle quickly sped through the parking lot and out the other exit, Todd stood there watching the pickup disappear into the night. He then turned, looked up the low white building, the array of satellite dishes. How the hell was he supposed to go in there and in 20 minutes start blithering about the day's events? How Clarendon was still missing, how tense the situation was, how Todd had been right in the heart of it all. He took a deep breath, knew that as soon as he stepped into the building, he'd be overwhelmed. First things first, he thought, heading toward his Cherokee, which was still parked in the 3rd row. Before his work swept over him, he tried calling Rawlins from his car phone. Todd ran his left hand through his hair. Dear God, he was tired, worried about the Clarendon interview. He'd awakened first thing this morning, and then the day's events had hit him one right after the other, each one more highly charged than the last. Actually, Clarendon's abduction seemed as if it had not taken place just this afternoon, but days ago. Reaching his vehicle, Todd slipped his hand into his pocket and pulled out his car keys. As he went to unlock the door, however, he stopped. Through the window, he could see that the vehicle wasn't locked. Odd, he thought, for he always secured it. Then he saw a large manila envelope placed on the driver's seat. Todd hesitated and considered the magnitude of what had happened thus far today. Had someone broken in and left something? Something such as what? He'd received threatening mail more than once, particularly since he'd come out of the closet, and the idea of a letter bomb zipped through his mind. No, you're just being paranoid, he told himself. He turned his head, tried to get a better look. Light from a tall lamppost was spilling through the windshield, and Todd could clearly make out some handwriting on the envelope. Handwriting that Todd immediately recognized. Remembering just who had a copy of his car key, Todd tore open the driver's door, grabbed the envelope, and read, Dear Todd, unfortunately I've gotten caught up in something, and for that reason I'm sure you'll find this tape of interest. Please just remember how good we were together. My love, Rawlins. In a near panic, Todd ripped open the envelope and pulled out a single video cassette. Written on it in someone else's handwriting was, Show at 9 tomorrow morning on Channel 10, or, as they say, he's a goner. This definitely didn't make any sense. What had Rawlins done after he'd left Todd's condo? Gone out somewhere and picked up this video? Then come all the way out here to drop it off? Quite obviously, perhaps, Rawlins had come out here hoping to catch Todd before the 10 p.m. news. Perhaps he'd been here and had actually gone into the studio. Todd slammed shut his car door and then, video cassette and envelope in hand, dashed toward the studio. He jogged in and out of the rows of cars, past the line of Channel 10 vehicles and up to the side entrance, where he took out his pass card and swiped it through the magnetic reader. The door buzzed open and Todd hurried inside and down the hall toward the newsroom. Hey, Mr. Mills, said the janitor, a young guy who looked up from the vacuuming. Everyone's looking for you. Todd ducked in the first door on his right, entering the large newsroom. Hurrying past the huge coffee pots and piles of daily newspapers, he headed straight through a sea of cubicles for his office. "There you are, Todd," called someone from a cubicle. 2 or 3 other people called after him as well, but Todd didn't stop. What the hell had Rawlins brought out here? What could be on that tape? It could be something about AIDS or... And this was what he most feared. It could be something about suicide. "Jesus, Todd, where have you been?" called Ann Miller, a diminutive woman and the producer of the late news. "You're on in 7 minutes. We're planning on you." "Not tonight." Todd raced past her desk, past the assignment desk, and into his office, closing the glass door behind him. He dropped himself in his chair and glanced one last time at the note on the manila envelope. What the hell did Rawlins mean? Before stuffing the envelope in the waste can under his desk, he then rolled over to the VCR, jammed the tape into the machine, and turned on the monitor. Immediately, the image of a very thin blonde woman burst onto the screen, and Todd gasped and lunged forward, touching the glass, trying to understand. He recognized her at once, of course, just as he recognized the disheveled man sitting next to her on the floor. "What the hell do you mean, not tonight?" demanded Nan, bursting into his office. "Don't you realize how crazy it's been here? We've been doing almost continual coverage of this, and you're..." She saw the image on the screen. "Oh my God, that's Clarendon." It most definitely was, and Todd was too shocked to say anything, do anything. But watch that woman was one of the 3 who'd abducted Clarendon this afternoon. There was no doubt about that. And that was the congressman himself, right next to her. So this had to have been made sometime after Clarendon was abducted. "Where did you get this?" demanded Nan, unable to take her eyes from the screen. "My car," mumbled Todd. "Someone left it there." "When?" "Just now. Just when I came in." "Is that one of the kidnappers?" Todd nodded, said, "Shh." He couldn't stop the tape. It just kept rolling, each moment worse than the other one before. Someone else came into Todd's office, then 2, 3, 5 more people. Pushed their way in, all of them jammed around the small monitor, all of them watching in shock. Finally, a gentle cry of horror filled the room as the blonde woman on the tape finished recounting her story, pulled out the syringe of blood, and broke into a scuffle with a congressman. "Clarendon." "Oh my God!" gasped Nan. "That was their blood!" "I hate Clarendon," moaned another, "but that's murder. What's happened to our world?" Todd was as stunned as them all, for though he doubted Clarendon would survive the kidnapping, he hadn't imagined anything as perverse as this. Whether they'd actually succeeded in ejecting him, however, was unclear, and after he punched off the tape, he just sat there groping with one and only one question. What did any of this have to do with Rawlins? "So you just got this, Todd?" pressed Nan. He nodded. "Seconds before I came in here." "That means the police don't even know about it." "No, they don't." He ejected the cassette, stared at it, and read, "Show at 9 tomorrow morning on Channel 10 or..." As they say, he's a goner. The silence that followed was broken by one of the assistant producers who crowded into Todd's office. "What a scoop! Channel 10 scores again!" Frank, the assignment editor, nearly shouted with glee. "This is unbelievably hot! We'll do a special report, maybe get some other AIDS activists to comment. Someone should alert the network about this one." "Yeah, right. We'll send something out over the wire before the 10 o'clock news. My God, we only have 5 minutes, but..." "No!" shouted Todd, jumping up. "Now get out of here, all of you. What do you think this is, some sort of carnival game?" One of them said, "But..." "Out!" Nan turned toward the others, and in her best controlling producer voice shouted, "Go on, get out. He's right. We can't use it. Not just now, anyway. Not tonight. This is far too serious. We have to contact the police first." Clutching the tape, Todd slumped back in his chair as everyone but Nan filed out. He held the tape against his gut, squinched his eyes shut, and thought, "Rawlins, Rawlins, Rawlins! How in God's name did you get hold of this?" "Do you know," he asked, "if anyone tried to get in the building to see me recently?" "Not that I'm aware of, but I'll ask around." Nan touched his shoulder and said, "What is it, Todd?" He took a deep breath. "I don't get what's going on. I mean, how did I end up with this tape?" "How did you..." He shrugged. "Like I said, it was in my car, just sitting there on the seat. No note, no nothing." It had happened before, when Michael was murdered. Todd's personal life and every bit of dirty laundry had been dragged out, not only by the police, but by Channel 7, The station he'd been working for, his host of problems had become public sport, and he damn well wasn't going to let it happen again. Not yet, not given the challenges Rawlins and he were about to face. "Nothing, just his tape," replied Todd. "Listen, I'm not going on air tonight. I can't. You can have someone else report on me. You can have Terry say that I'm recovering or something. That I've spent a good amount of time helping the police. Something like that. I don't care. You can even say we received a tape. Say WLAK received it, not me, but I'm not going in front of a camera. Todd, you know how big this is. I don't give a... Please, just think about it." "No, I won't go on, period. End of discussion." He rubbed his eyes. "You better go call the police. Tell them they have to come out here. I'll talk to them, but only out here. I'm going to close my blinds. I just have to rest. I just have to calm things down for a few minutes. This day has been insane, I'll say." Without another word, Nan hurried out. As soon as he heard her shut the door, Todd turned and went over to the glass wall of his office and looked out. About a half dozen people stared back, and he lowered the many blinds, then closed them completely. When he was sure no one could see in, he reached under his desk and pulled the envelope from the wastebasket. He didn't think anyone would have noticed him carrying it in, and he started to tear it in half, but stopped. No, the police might search his trash, tape it back together or something. So he took the envelope, folded it 3 times, and stuffed it in his coat pocket. He'd get rid of it later, perhaps ditch it in the men's room. Next, he pulled out his shirt tail and, not even considering if he was destroying evidence, wiped clean every bit of the black video box. In a few minutes, he'd take the VHS tape to one of the engineers and have him make a pro beta dub, but for now, he put the tape back in the player, rewound it, and watched it one more time. As the images of the blonde woman and her assault on Clarendon rolled a second time on the monitor, Todd reached for a pair of headphones, which he plugged into the VCR. Again, he listened to Tina's story. Again, he heard the sad fate of her daughter, as well as Clarendon's repulsive remarks. This time, though, Todd paid closer attention to what else he could hear. There were 2 other men in the room, surely the guys who'd abducted Clarendon this morning, and one of their voices was oddly familiar to Todd. What took Todd's attention in particular, however, was that odd background sound, the noise of something humming or rolling. It wasn't coming from just that room either. No, it was emanating from somewhere else in that building, and it was familiar, most definitely. Todd clenched his eyes shut and clasped his hands over the earphones as if to press the sound deeper into his head. Just where the hell had he heard that before? Another one bites the dust, and oi, what a mess. I mean, talk about a bunch of gloppy blood. It took all 3 of us to get Tina's body tucked into a couple of hefty 2-plies, and it took all 3 of us a good long while to swab up the bathroom. Who could have imagined that the life of such a beautiful gal could have ended like that? A simple fall and a gash to the head. I just hope when I croak that it's going to be a little more dignified. I mean, I don't mean to be vain or anything, but it's such an ugly way to go. This AIDS been so fucking drawn out. I mean, you can linger, bounce back, linger, etc., and so on for months. No, I did Kurt right here. Here, have a teeny sip of cyanide and it's lights out. Boom. I mean, his end was long and sad enough as it was, so why should he have been forced out of his home and left to smolder in some hospice? It's what he wanted least of all, and I guess I agree. Who wants to die in some strange place surrounded by strange people and strange things? Not I, thank you very much. No lingering in some cold, sterile departure lounge. I'm going when I want, which is to say soon. In other words, ta-ta, I'm next. Gay Mysteries audiobooks. I think it is easy to hate a label, but a face humanizes the word. So this effort is twofold. To offer comfort to those like myself that your world didn't end because you don't fit into the view of acceptable society on both sides. And in hopes of helping those with family that are LGBTQ, that it doesn't mean we are aliens from the child they once knew. Reassure them so they can maybe be supportive at the same time, being true to their values.